So previously my terrain was had no water layer. It was the terrain was colorized using a shader graph that took the height of the vertexes, or the elevation or y of the vertexes, and just banded them according to according to some colors that you can add to it. So it was a fairly simple flat shader to do that. So in this one, so anything below 0.5 meters was colorized blue, and I've gone now to the next step of adding more realistic water than just a static blue color to the terrain. And now I've put in a flat plane, and you can see it more clearly in the if I slide open the scene viewer, scene editor here. So I have a flat plane in that's across the entire landscape at that 0.5. I've actually raised it up slightly. I think it's sitting around 2 meters high, and this flat plane just has its own shader, and I've got a water shader graph that I've got up here that I've written for this. It's not really my work. I've copied that from someone who had put a YouTube video on explaining how they'd got their water shader to work, and I've just completely taken their ideas and used it because it's my first time working with water. The only single change I made, apart from customizing colors and textures, was to give the water movement an oscillating component. So you can see in the game window here on the right that the movement it might be quite complex to see it, but there's two movements, and part of the movement is an oscillatory to backwards and forwards motion that gives it a sort of like a tidal movement, like the ebb and flow of waves coming up the shore that you'd get at the seaside. And I like that particular movement being in there at the moment. I do anyway. So it's looking pretty stunning for my first go at doing water ever, and I'm really pleased with the outcome. I think it's gorgeous looking sunrise, and I think it suits the world colours. It looks at home in this landscape. So I just want to talk you through how it works. I've rejigged things a little bit. My day cycle's quite no, I don't want to get distracted talking about that. My day-night cycle is I was working on it last night because there's some things I'm not happy about, the orbits, particularly of the moon. So that's work in progress at the moment. I've restructured it, just refolded everything. So my water is here. As I say, it's just a single plane that goes to the edge, and in due course I would need to make this plane more granular. The mesh is quite coarse, and that has limitations on things like wave effects that this shader can give to this, because the shader can manipulate the apparent position of the mesh vertices, raise or fall them, make them fall according to a kind of a noise map or a sine wave, etc. So the more vertices you have in your mesh, the finer grain waves you can create. At the moment, because my mesh is pretty coarse, raising and lowering the mesh vertices has the effect of making it look like waves are coming in on the shore. And I might be able to, if I find a good angle where you can look along the shoreline, and I'll just stand still here for a second, you can see that the water appears to be, it feels like there's waves coming in on the shore, and that's because the mesh points, vertices in this plane, are being lifted and lowered, and so obviously where that plane intersects with the the terrain is then changing with respect to time, and it's giving that kind of wave motion. The rest of it, the ripples and the sunlight, are all just properties of the material that's being applied to this to this surface of the plane, that give it the appearance of having 3 dimensions, and most of that's coming from the normal map. And then because I've given the water a very high smoothness, we're getting all the reflections from the sun and the lighting, which is brilliant. And the other thing is the colours that I've given to the material have a very high degree of transparency in the alpha channel. So you're also seeing some of the colour of the original terrain renderer, the terrain shader, coming through. So in the deeper parts, you can see it here more in the scene preview window, that the deeper parts of the channel look a bit blue, and that is simply the original shaded terrain showing through the transparency of the water. Well, that's the main reason for it. So the colours are a little purpley and a bit white because essentially water reflects the sky. So I've simply picked these colours with the eyedropper out from my sky, and then I have a slider here where I can slide between the two, and it will change the where the depth, the deep water and the shallow water are taken to be, where that cut-off point is. I've got my numbers set the way I like them here, 0.1 and 0.24, but I'll change those, and hopefully in the scene view you'll be able to see the change. So if I drag the slider from one to the other, yeah, you can see it quite clearly in the scene viewer. The effect is quite dramatic, moving between the two. If you have it up too high, then you get a very stark line around where the plane is meeting the shoreline, and that's because my second color doesn't have so much. It's reducing the amount of alpha in it.